and take it away.
All right. Hello. Welcome everyone to the start of a little Mega Man X block here. It's really little, but we've got some good games up here. We've got Mega Man X8 and then the half of that, Mega Man X4, coming up right after. My name is Simon. I've
Go ahead.
I've speedrun this game a lot. It's one of my favorites. I speedrun a lot of Mega Man in general, and yeah, gonna be one of the commentators.
Hey, yeah, my name is the Sid. I'm an old guard. Tempest dug me up out of a trash can, dusted me off, and put me in front of the camera. Luckily, I have some experience with X8 and X4, so hopefully I can help elevate this run and explain things a little bit better. Looks like the runners are ready to go, though. Do you want to count them in, or should I?
Oh.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds good.
All right, we're gonna be running the any % new game normal category. So time's going to start as soon as our runners hit normal on the difficulty select right here. So if everyone's ready, I can give it the countdown.
Seems like they're waiting to go.
All right, then let's see them off in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
All right.
All right. Good luck. Have fun, gamers.
Yeah. Normal, man. That brings me back. 3 options. Let's pick the middle one. It seems like the right one, right?
Mm-hmm. All right. Mega Man X8. We're starting up with the intro stage. This is going to be an introductory stage for all 3 characters. Ever since X7, there's now 3 playable Maverick Hunters, X, Axel, and Zero. We're going to be starting up with X. We're going to be getting a little segment on each of them. X does... Yep.
For the vines.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah. Yeah, can we do a quick reset, JP? We messed up our vines on Tempest's side. Thank you. So we'll just roll back and count in again. Does that sound good? Yeah, it looks... You know, I have to do the same thing all the time. Like, there was a couple of runs when I was de-rusting X3 PS1 for a marathon where I forgot to do that. And I'm like, well, aren't I a professional? All right, so we're almost back to the menu, and then we can change the settings real quick and start again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we'll give the count. I'll let you do the countdown twice.
What an honor! Twice in one day.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do that over again. All right. For real, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
It's just like, we had to do it twice.
This is the one.
Derpathon 2, right?
Yep.
Who?
Alright. As I was mentioning, Noah's Park is the introductory stage, gives us a little segment on each of the characters. X is mostly as he always was. He has 1 extra level of charge now, the strongest one yet. And every character gets an air dash by default, which is kind of nice. This game adds a mechanic where certain enemies have like a guard up, or a big shield, and every character has their own way of breaking the shield. For X, that is going to be the full level charge shot. For Zero, it's going to be a triple slash, and for Axel, it's just going to be every 8th bullet is like a blue bullet that does it. And yeah, first mid-boss right here, Krabsy. We're gonna fight this guy several times throughout the stage. You can use the Axel to like hover in place a little and then fire bullets, or you can do what Tempest is doing, which is just do it with X. Because in this game, you actually have 2 buttons for weapons. You have 1 dedicated Buster button, and then you have 1 button for whatever weapon you currently have equipped. So since we currently have no weapons, they're actually both going to be Buster buttons functionally. But that means you can shoot pellets with 1 while charging up a shot with the other and then get real good DPS out of it. So that's very nice. Moving on to Axel's introductory segment right here. JP doing, the classic strat. So Axel has this rapid fire. Axel has his rapid fire Axel bullets. Something that was slightly changed in this game is if you hang onto a wall and just fire, then you don't lose any height on the wall. You just cling there, and that's how you can do this enemy room very easily. There's going to be a couple of rooms like these throughout the game. Very nicely done on both sides. Now we're going to fight Crap V again, and this is a forced usage of the double attack, which is another thing that was added by this game. We don't want to use it too much. It's a pretty long animation. It does 16 damage to everything on screen. Usually you tend to see it right here and then on the final boss, because the final phase is pretty obnoxious without it. You can use it in other places, but it loses you some time. Some people will use it on like the final 16 HP of Dark Mantis or similar, but both characters need to be alive, so don't want to hold off on it for too long.
It's a good new runner tool if you're getting to the end of the boss and about ready to go down permanently. It's better to just eat the cutscene than have to redo the fight for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Actually interesting to see some of the mechanics now, having it been a while. I'm like, wait, they pulled that from X3, they pulled that from X2. Oh wow, they're just using all the mechanics. Nice.
Yep. This is Zero's introductory segment right here. We've got another little room where you hit 4 DBs in a row. After that, you go out and then you reunite with X. He takes over for the final little bit. This is where they like start putting these shield attackers in your way that you actually... Well, you're supposed to have to guard break them, and we can just ignore them for the most part. And, yeah, moving right along to the intro boss. It's the same guy we've seen cropping up for the entire stage, but this time he's like the real boss. He has a real health bar. That's how you know he's the boss.
Holy gasp. The third time. Who could have seen this coming?
This fight is going to be interesting, because you can stun lock this guy very easily. So this is going to be your big tutorial on the shield mechanic, and every time you break his shield, he has this really long animation where he like tumbles down and takes like 5 seconds to recover, and that gives you enough time to charge up another fully charged shot to deal damage, and charge up another fully charged shot to guard break him again, and then just kind of like do what JP is doing right now and just like loop him into infinity, and that's literally the entire fight. If you don't mess up your inputs, then that's all it's going to be. The final hit you can cut a little short. You don't need the full level of charge, just the third, but that's a minor little optimization. Yeah, I think this fight's also supposed to teach you about the double attack a little more, because Aelia does mention in the dialogue, but way faster not to use it, and it's fairly easy. Tempest's getting cornered a little here. He's going to have to switch sides. That's not very good. Opting to use the double attack before one goes down.
Get that free damage. Some days are just like that, man. And some days are like that.
Absolutely. Alright, so GP is onto the stage select. We have our 8 Mavericks as usual. We can pick 2 Hunters. We're going to pick X and Zero starting out. This game also lets you choose a Navigator to take into each stage, but it also just lets you disable navigation entirely, and that disables all like text pop-ups and similar, and that's... We don't need any navigation. We've played this game before, so we're just going to turn that off with the run.
It is a very kind courtesy for a PS2 game to give you what is functionally a cutscene skip.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh man, the jellyfish. I guess
this stage, you may remember this stage if you've played the game casually, because it's a lot of casual people's nightmare. Gigabolt Mana War. This stage is entirely on like a set track, basically. You're following this guy around, and all you're doing is like moving around in your little axes. You don't actually control where the track goes or anything. Your aim is to always collect these little boost things that let you dash closer to him, and then keep up with him as best as possible, dealing damage before he goes too far. He'll start making this fire when he's pretty close to death. Ideally, right around here where JP is right now in this little corridor is where we want to get him, because after that he starts gaining a lot of distance, and if you don't have him by like this point, it can get a little difficult. But very nice job there.
If you let him get too far away, it's basically like throwing away the quick kill. So it's like a setup thing where you've got to be aware of what you're doing.
Yeah, if
I've
he goes
tried it
too far
myself.
away, it eventually just becomes literally impossible to catch up.
Yeah.
It's quite annoying.
Yeah, I tried learning this myself back in the day, and this guy. Oh wow, nice.
Nice. That was a very, very fast kill on Tempest's side. Very, very good.
It's an even
All
trade.
right.
Unfortunately, Zero's a pretty big DPS source early on, since we don't
Yeah,
have weapons.
First boss fight here in Man of War, or first Maverick boss, I should say. The idea for these is always just going to be repeatedly jump slashing. They do 2 damage each time, and they inflict super little iframes. Slightly more after the second slash in a sequence, and then every 4 slashes is more. Every boss also has like 2 special health thresholds. At 16 health depleted, they'll do like a little they'll have like a little fire aura, and they'll be invincible for a while. And then at 48 health depleted, they'll have a desperation attack, where they're invincible for quite a while.
Yep. Yeah, that's the major difference between this and like some of the older gen games. There would only be one phase transition when you get to half health. This one, it kind of double dips. And because of these rage attacks, a lot of these boss fights end up being a little bit slower compared to the newer games. But
Yeah.
it does also add a different vector that the challenge can be increased in this game compared to some of the older ones. Where it's like, no, you got to hold this, and if you get killed, you're holding the L. That's it. Nice.
Very nice. Both runners make it past Man of War without significant problems. Very, very good. That's always it's always a scary one. The early game of X8 is quite scary for marathons because you're starting on Man of War, which is easy to have stuff go wrong in, and then you're following up with Dark Mantis, which notoriously has a very, very scary boss for learning the run. I've coached someone through learning the X8 run, and this was like one of the major problem points as well.
Yeah, some of the Mega Man X games have some really nasty early game route, but the difficulty goes down significantly later, and X8's one of those. It's right up there with like X3 Hundo. Like, oh boy, enjoy Rhino.
So Dark Mantis is a stealth stage. It's going to be all dark. Oh, one second. Tempest is doing some shops. This game kind of forgoes like the traditional upgrade thingy, like with finding hard tanks in every stage and other upgrades. You can still find armors and such, but a lot of things have been condensed into like a shop system. And Tempest opted to buy 2 life bottles and a life up for 0 for safety, which is absolutely reasonable. And also the very same thing I do. Gives 0 a bunch more health to work with in this stage, pretty important, and then life bottles are like on demand, very small refills, but they're nice.
Yeah, I may have mentioned how I'm like an old head before. There was kind of a schism between the routing, which whether it was X or 0 was better. So it would directly impact those purchasing as well, because if you're going to go with the X route, because his armor is very strong, the problem is it's a bit slow to get, versus like 0, who's just strong in general. I was almost hoping to see that kind of schism, but looks like you guys have actually resolved that in the following years.
I think these days most people run the 0 route. It's a lot comfier for sure.
I had a feeling that it was going to end up shaking out that way, but there was a side of me that wanted X to be like somewhat competitive. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. Important thing right here on JP's screen, he just gained access to an optional little room by using the copy shot to disguise himself as one of the guards here. That allowed him to turn on the lights, and that is going to make a couple platforms spawn at the end of this corridor right here. They're kind of off screen, but what we're grabbing up there is a weapon called the D-Glaive for 0, Durga Glaive, and that is going to be enormously powerful. We're going to replace his normal weapon with it right after this stage, and it is an enormously long-range weapon with a large blade that lets you get very powerful hits and often double hits in as well. So it makes 0 very, very strong.
It has like almost no downsides besides you have to purchase it and get it.
Exactly, and that's also why we did Man of War first, is we needed his weapon to open up that secret room, and thus get the D-Glaive. So even if we wanted to get it earlier, we couldn't. This is the earliest you can possibly get it.
It's right up there with a lot of the early games, like targeting the boots first for movement so that it speeds everything up in general.
Yeah.
But this one's a bit different since we can actually buy a weapon that increases our DPS, which is very foreign to the original. I don't even think X7 has anything like that. X8's the only one I think that does it.
Yeah.
But that's what I find makes this such a cool game compared to the other ones. Has some of the similar gameplay, but enough difference that it's not just running X2.
No.
Oof. Spikes. Oh.
Unfortunate death right there. Thankfully the checkpoint isn't too far back for that section.
I'm suddenly having like flashbacks to getting the Buster in Owl stage.
Alright, JP's fighting Dark Mantis. This is a very difficult fight. This one always keeps you on your toes. Dark Mantis is very, very agile. You gotta like learn how to dance with him a little, jump around him while keeping up a good assault. Try and get him while he's clinging onto the walls, and yeah. This is a fight that runners will often opt to use the double attack in after he's done with his desperation attack. Unfortunately, JP right there losing Axel to a big slash. Now, a pretty difficult situation. Can he finish this off? Yes!
Oh,
nice.
Nice clutch. Nice.
That was clutch. Woo! Very, very nice.
Yeah. Mega Man X has always been a game of like choosing where you take your damage, and it's not any different in this one.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Tempest opting to pop the double attack early just in case he loses a team member somewhere down the line. Also respectable. Dark Mantis also has this grab attack. A couple of things in this game have this like function of grabbing one character and then you need to tag out to the other character in order to retrieve them and gain control back.
Well, what's the right call? Looks like we lost Axel a little bit early, unfortunately.
But now with a life bottle 0, should have plenty of health to hopefully go through this final 16 HP. And Tempest also clears. Very nice, very nice.
Nice. Yeah, I've been teaching a friend of mine like X3 Hundo recently. And one thing that you've been pointing out is like learning the boss's pattern and reacting to that is more important than learning to attack. Because when you're first learning, and if you just go in like swinging your sword, you're not paying attention, and that ends up getting you killed a lot more often. But the runners here are showing that they've sat down and paid attention to the attacks instead of just going, all right, well, we'll trade until somebody dies. Good old D-Glaive.
Alright, so JP has purchased the D-Glaive, is now on his way, is going to Gravity Antonian, which is, as of 2025, it's what I like to call the old route, because we do have a newer, more modern route that allows us to do a couple skips in the stage, actually, using the Rooster's technique and Panda's technique. It still holds up perfectly fine, but
I remember seeing a couple of those skips and being like, huh, that's neat. It's cool to hear that they've been implemented.
And Tempest, okay, so now we're having a route divergence. So Tempest is going what I like to call the new route, which I think was discovered or like people started running it in like 2024 or something, or 3. I don't know how long ago it was exactly, but yeah, I'll like outline the major differences. So the reason that the reason for the third stage picks, like which one is your third stage, is specifically important because Vile is going to show up and replace the mid boss of that stage, guaranteed. You can see right here for Tempest, he just did a big mid boss skip, which we'll talk about later. And now Vile has shown up to replace the mid boss of the stage, and Gravity Antonian and Earthrock Trilobite notably have incredibly long mid bosses. Gravity Antonian also has a really difficult mid boss, so we're very happy to get it replaced with something that is much, much shorter. You can see the raw power of the Derpathon coming right there. Yep, sorry?
I've never really considered that route-wise. That's some like X2 routing where they're trying to get the Mavericks off the map as soon as possible. That's some really good implementation.
Yeah, Vile is there's actually, so a lot of people think that Vile randomly shows up and replaces mid boss, but there's no randomness to it at all. It just depends on the way that it just depends on the order that you enter stages in. So if you like have the same order every time, then Vile is going to replace the same mid bosses every time. The ones we want him to replace are in both of these routes. One of them in Rooster, and then Earthrock, Trilobite, and Gravity Antonian. It's going to be the same across the two routes. Just the Trilobite third route has other advantages that we'll cover later.
Oh, that's cool, because I believe you guys had X 2 runs ago, or X6 2 runs ago. And that's actually the same thing with the Nightmare system. It seems random, but depending on which boss you go into, it actually determines what Nightmare affects on which stages. So it's good to see that they iterated on it in a very useful manner, where they didn't just implement Nightmare effects, which were Nightmare.
Now we have two boss fights on screen right here. One interesting thing about the Antonian fight is his weakness is the big funny spin that we got from Dark Mantis, Lost Stage. But one of the things about weaknesses in this game is you actually don't want to use them most of the time because hitting a boss with their weakness gives them a lot of iframes.
Yeah.
Like significantly more than hitting them with several normal glaive slashes. But there is something you can do like for an optimization where I mentioned the two thresholds before, like at 16 depleted and 48 depleted, where they will get a lot of iframes anyway. If they're like just in front of one of those thresholds and you pull out the weakness for like 8 damage, they will take the full damage from it and they won't gain any extra iframes because you hit them with like their weakness. So you can like push them as far below as you can, like eyeballing the health bar. It's a little optimization you can do.
Yeah, I've seen other runs in the X series optimize damage that exact same way. That's impressive to hear that that's been implemented in 8. The other thing too we kind of glossed over as well is Zero's been flying. That's not really an intended
What?
Yeah, the spin attack we got from Mantis is supposed to let us spin in air. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember if you use like hold down or up on the D-pad in the opposite direction on the thumbstick, you'll start flying. Because the game just... Go ahead.
So you start spinning, and then on the left stick, you have to press the flying direction of your choice. You're gonna have to press up left, up, or up right. And then on the right stick, you're gonna have to make a downwards input. Any downwards input will like act as a trigger input and then set the whole thing off. It works that way because there's an intended function of the weapon where if you press down, then it'll like cancel the move early and let you move down, down left, down right. For some reason, if you know your left stick is pointing in an upwards direction instead, and you do that trigger input on the right stick, then it'll take the direction you have on the left stick and let you fly, and it's very, very fun and very broken.
I mean, there's not a single Mega Man X game that doesn't have something that does not function as intended. And I think that's part of the charm of the series, actually.
Yeah. You're gonna see it a lot, probably, in Tempest, on Tempest's side right here, because Bamboo Pandemonium is one of the most open stages, where we get to use spin flying, that's what we call it, a lot. And yeah, it's super fun for just general movement around stages. It's like quite fast as well.
Yeah, it definitely makes the game a lot more open once you get to that point. And it's a very nice reward for going through some of the toughest bosses early on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's I think X8 is one of my favorite Mega Man runs just on the basis of spin flying. It's a bit tough to learn all the inputs for, but once you have it down and you can like do it smoothly, it's so fun. If you can like transition into it smoothly from any other kind of platforming, it's so nice.
Yeah.
You're also seeing the like normal intended effect of the spin on Tempest's side, where you can just jump and then like you can rotate your glaive around for like a good 3 seconds or so, and it rotates very rapidly and hits very rapidly and does a lot of damage, and it also suspends you in the air for a bit, which has various nice purposes. The glaive is just an insane damage dealer, and the spin will take care of anything that's like a normal enemy, even those big tanky guys.
Yep.
Meanwhile, over on JP's side, you're seeing Avalanche Yeti stage. A very different kind of stage. Every stage in X8 is more or less its own thing with like its unique gimmick. Bamboo Pandemonium is like the most classic stage, I suppose, but Yeti is a ride chaser stage where you're going through the snow on this Ride Chaser bike. You can
Very
boost. Each character has their own separate boost, or I guess not boost. You're not actually limited, so it's more like a dash. The optimal way to go fast is for one character to dash, then you swap onto the other character and dash with them, and then both characters' dashes can recover at the same time, and then you repeat that ad infinitum until you're at the end. Tempest receiving very lethal Panda hugs. Panda's very friendly, but he's also very deadly. His close combat attacks do a lot of damage, and you don't want to be hit by them. But one of the other nice things about Panda in the fight is his hitbox is so large that the glaive is basically guaranteed to land a double hit on him every single time. He like melts like butter in the sun if you do it right. It's a crazy fast fight.
It's so funny going from like 4, 5, and 6, where 0 is like close range, SDC, melt HP, and Zero here is kind of similar to his X4, 5, and 6 counterpart, but he goes to a mid-range fighter where he can like maintain range and not just get melted if he messes up. It's an unfortunate reset.
Very unfortunate, yeah. That mid boss is a little nasty. This final mid boss in Yeti is so there's two of this mid boss in the stage. The first one has very little health and is generally not a problem. This second one is a little tougher, especially if you're going for fast times, because you can one cycle this guy, but he's out of your range, so you need to constantly dash to keep up and fire shots, especially with Zero, whose shots are actually way stronger than X's here. His like little beam saber shots. He keeps firing projectiles at you, spawning these dudes, and so constantly like keeping up with him in order to one cycle him is very difficult. You'll see like each of these turbines start smoking, and then that's like your cue. He's on really low health. Unfortunately does miss the one cycle. But you know, most important thing is you don't die and you get it in the second attempt now.
Well, for better or worse, it's gonna even things up a little bit, since Tempest took a death earlier on, so closing up the race a bit. I expect the lead to change a few times over the course of the run.
One of the things that's been added more or less recently in the final section of Yeti here is if you spin fly upright, right here there's a rare metal, and this is going to unlock a metal called Shock Absorber for Zero in the shop later, which has the very nice effect of completely removing any and all knockback for Zero. He'll still take full damage from everything, but he won't be pushed and like interrupted, and it makes a lot of things in the endgame a lot nicer. So we grab it. We're not going to be able to buy it for a while because it's 15,000 metals. That's like the little triangle count you always see in the top right. But yeah, we're gonna have it for the final couple stages, and it's going to be very nice. Apparently it wasn't in the route for quite a while.
Yeah, I don't remember that ever being a thing, honestly. Is the metal route loose enough that you don't have to go to your way for too much, or?
Oh yeah, it's very loose. It is you basically don't have to go out of your way for metals at all, or at least the route that I personally use, which gets Deglaive, Shock Absorber for Zero, 2 life ups for Zero, one life up plus 2 for Zero, a life up plus 1 for X. You basically don't have to go out of your way at all, because the big floating triangle right here you're seeing on JP's side that always comes down at the end of each stage is 3,000. We're gonna get one for each of the 8 map break stages, and we're also gonna get one for the first 2 fortress stages. Which amount to a lot of money.
That's what I figured I might as well ask before sticking my foot all the way in my mouth.
Yeah, generally, you're going to be able to afford the Shock Absorber right after your 7th Maverick stage, if you make average like purchases for life ups. And you honestly won't need it any earlier than that, but the 8th stage and basically every route is Sunflower, and there it is decently nice to have. And any stages following it, of course.
Yeah, being able to take full advantage of iframes definitely speeds up movement a lot and makes fights a lot simpler. Oh, Mr. Rooster.
Yep. Rooster, you might also remember this stage if you played the game casually, because it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad for both a casual setting and a speedrun setting, because this stage is comprised of 90% auto-scrollers. There's a big auto-scroller here, going down, and then there's going to be like a tiny little section, and there's going to be another big auto-scroller, and then we'll have the boss, and then we'll have another auto-scroller after the boss going up, so it's something.
Yeah. I'm a big champion for like all the individual X titles. They all have their advantages and their weaknesses. And being like, yep, that's, you know, this is just one of those unfortunate weaknesses of X8, PS2. But it's also an easy break if you want to drink some water or something.
Yeah, you're seeing on JP's side, you can just spin fly up left and it will just do this entire auto-scroller for you because you're outside of the screen boundaries and the platforms can't get to you. I don't believe this works on the second one, actually. I personally actually take excellence to this stage, and there's some fun shenanigans you can do while hanging out in the auto-scroller here. So I don't actually do this. Yeah, it's. I guess it's a way to rest your hands while you leave your hands on two buttons.
Unfortunate death for Tempest, but we're seeing that on both runners' sides.
Yeah, so that mid-boss is taking names today.
Yeah, somebody is getting his medals from the final boss. Definitely not Sigma. Couldn't be Sigma. Wouldn't be Sigma. Definitely not Sigma.
This section right here that JP is coming up on after this little mid-boss is also notoriously difficult because there's a lot of instant death. The walls are covered in spikes. The floor is covered in spikes. Sometimes the ceiling is covered in spikes. You really have to know ahead of time what the layout is here, or descend very, very slowly.
Yeah, even the remake didn't survive the spikiness. It stayed, period.
This is one of the biggest, like, casual killers as well.
This is definitely one of those trap stages.
Tempest barely missing the kill. Okay, so if I'm right, then even in the old route, this room... No, wait, I'm wrong. Okay. In the new route, I know this mid-boss room was replaced by Vile. Which is nice, because this is also a fairly... It's not a hard segment, as you can see. You just spin fly up, and then that takes care of these little dudes. But it is a fairly lengthy segment, because there's like 20 of these or something.
Hard timer, that's it.
I don't actually remember where the old route gets its final route, then. If it gets another one outside of Trilobite. But yeah, I guess while we're waiting on the second auto-scroller here, and Tempest is going for Yeti, might as well talk routes. You mentioned an X route earlier. That's a pretty old thing by this point.
Yeah.
But they used to be very, very competitive. There are two parts of armor in the game that you can obtain fairly easily for X. One of them requires a revisit to the intro stage, which is unfortunate. That's
the big
like
killer.
the most reason why it ended up being slower than the Zero route. The other is in Sunflower, or sorry, in Yeti using Sunflower's weapon.
Yep.
And the first one basically lets you charge faster, which is nice. The second one upgrades each of your charges by one stage. So like, if you fire a pellet, it'll come out as a half charge. If you fire a half charge, it'll be a full charge. And if you fire a full charge, there'll be like a gigantic laser beam, but that's actually not what you want.
F-off laser, yeah.
What you want to do is just keep firing half charges, which turn into full charges, and they actually also inflict very few iframes on bosses, which makes it one of the most efficient ways of fighting bosses in this game. As mentioned, weaknesses, you know, aren't really the optimal DPS anymore, because they have like unique weakness reactions and stuff, and you know, everything's more cinematic. So we just want to pal, like, with those two parts, you can dish out full charges in like a half-second intervals or something. It's quite nice. It just takes a little more setup. And then there's what I call the new Zero route and the old Zero route. Specifically Antonian Furt and Trilobite Furt. One of the benefits, as mentioned, of the new route is in Rooster, as you're going to see on Tempest's side very shortly. He's going to get one of the mid bosses replaced by Vile, the longer one even, which is very nice. But the main things are like putting Antonian 7th instead. We have Panda's weapon and we have Rooster's weapon. And you saw earlier in the Antonian stage, there's like gravity puzzles where you flip the gravity and then the blocks move accordingly, and you gotta reach a warp at the end to go onto the next screen. Turns out those weapons modify your hitbox slightly while you're using them. Roosters goes downwards, Pandas goes straight forwards, and we can clip into some of those blocks and just like barely touch the warps for some rooms without ever interacting with the puzzle, which is very nice.
That's so cool. Oh man.
It's like whoop, and you're in there.
When there's finally a route change in a Mega Man X game, it's almost always one of the coolest things you can see.
Absolutely. One other small thing is that Yeti stage is put a little earlier in the new route, and this enables you to have the ice technique for Rooster and more of the Vile fights. Because Vile's weakness is actually ice as well, and Vile's only classified as a mid-boss. He doesn't get gigantic iframes off of it, and you can cut off just a little bit of time with ice on each Vile fight you do. And same for Rooster, like the thing that I mentioned earlier about like knocking them as far as you can into each threshold applies. We can optimize a little with ice there. Then there's one more thing I was gonna mention, but it's slipping my mind now.
We've still got like a half an hour left. I'm sure we'll figure it out. At least a half hour.
JP now doing the final exit climb. It's a little tense. This is especially tense if you don't have Zero, because he dies in the Rooster fight, because his double jump is really nice for this. It makes it a lot easier. If you only have Axel or X here, it gets way more scary.
Yeah, these areas are actually quite interesting because it showcases like the difference between the three characters. Because X is the air dash, Axel is the hover, and then Zero gets that double. Oh
no.
Yep, those spikes still have hitboxes on the edge, unfortunately.
Oh.
Some days it do be like that.
And it's a Mega Man game, so they're instant death, naturally.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I can't believe we didn't headbutt those spikes. Well, commentator Kurtz, I'm going to shut up now.
Yeah, this room is notoriously tough, and especially like if, you know, it catches you once, you lose your cool, and then you bump into the spikes again, and it's very unpleasant.
I have thrown away plenty of Mega Man X2 and X3 runs to being like, all right, I wasted time on this stupid thing. I'm going to go for this half-second time save, and then I just game over, and I'm like, well, that's the end of that.
Yeah. It do be like that.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, JP is taking the mid... I don't think he actually went the old route proper as I know it. He's taking the mid-boss in Trilobite stage, which... Now you can see why the new route gets a Vile here, or why we want to get the Vile here in the first place, because this is a pretty long sequence of just dodging.
Yeah, Mega Man X does have a lot of, like, basically this is on a Rails type segment, and almost every one of the runs goes out of its way to remove as many cutscenes or things that are on a pure timer as possible. So this kind of showcases why taking the Vile fight, even though it is a boss fight, is much quicker than playing peekaboo with crystals for a good 60 seconds.
I think as far as I could tell, they got the order of Rooster and Yeti wrong for the old route. Happens.
There's
nothing you can salvage. Like, past the first couple stages...
you got D-Glaive, it's fine.
Yeah. You can really salvage most things. Tempest doing some strats that I kind of pioneered, and I'm very glad to see here. Basically what he's doing right now with Axel, he's messing around a little. Basically, every time with Axelay you press the fire button, your fall speed gets reset, and so in these auto-scrollers, they actually scroll slow enough that if you press the button rapidly enough, you don't lose height, you don't
Hover
fall,
down.
you actually can gain a little height, and you can just like hover your way through. You can even play like the floor is lava and not touch any of the platforms if you're good enough. It's a silly little thing that I like to do.
I wonder if it'll be worth. Oh yeah, we do have that. I was gonna say, I wonder if it'd be worth just eating the continue right before the boss to get everybody back. But Zero is gonna be our main DPS anyway, so
Yeah.
when in doubt, hit with spear. If
Yeah.
spear doesn't work, reset.
Worth noting, the actual hitbox of the D-Glaive, you can see on JP's side in a little bit, is like it's like a white arc, but it's only like the
It's the tip.
more
yeah.
brightly shining tip of the arc that actually does damage, and that's what we want to hit with as well. Like if everything in between, like closer to 0, doesn't do damage. We want to be at a specific distance from the boss, such that that the tip basically goes across the entire hitbox.
Yeah, it is interesting. They gave Zero like a bunch of different weapons, and there's really only one other one that's the size of the D-Glaive. It's the like Sigma sword or something, but you have to get that after like full clearing the game or something like that. But they all have like particular hitboxes and peculiarities to them. D-Glaive just ends up being the best. The only downside is its range, but that's also its biggest upside too. So it's a give and take where you have to be knowledgeable about how the combat actually takes place.
Yep. There's actually another weapon for Zero that is technically viable for a run, but it's more the way to get than the D-Glaive. It's called the Kaiser Knuckle. You get it in Antonian stage by using a Charged Crystal Wall as X, which also means that you have to find an armor port for X to even let him charge.
Buster, yeah.
But it does have, if you do get it, I don't remember how exactly the route goes, but I know Tsukimo's did it a couple times in a relay.
Please don't.
Ooh, very, very close. Jesus, very close rooster kill right there.
I almost peed myself there, and I'm not even doing the run.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, if you do get the Kaiser Knuckle, it actually can have greater DPS than the D-Glaive even, which is quite impressive. It can really melt the boss. It's worth like watching a run of.
It's up there with like SDC from what I've seen, but the fact that you're in knuckle range, and the problem is like you don't have access to SDC in the way where it's like you basically melt the boss 100%. So you're not as safe as you would be in like X4, 5, or 6 when SDCing, which I guess we'll explain when we get to X4. But it basically just means Zero can spam his slash with very little consequences versus this game where we have to kind of met out our damage based on iframes.
Yeah, it definitely takes a lot more skill to master. It's a route that I've not seen anyone else do, but it's out there.
Those routes are always the best too. Is those very inventive routes that may or may not become the standard at one point, but they're definitely a very big skill ceiling. Because the other thing, like we mentioned Buster, there's actually 2 Buster upgrades. There's actually 2 of every upgrade for X. He gets a neutral armor, and then he has 2 different variances. I think it's the Icarus, and I can't remember the name of the second armor.
The Hermes.
Hermes, yeah. And they have 2 completely unique power-up styles, but I think we like mix and match the helmet and the Buster, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Which is why it's so powerful. If you go with a full armor, you never get access to it, which is why we just go, you know what, 2 is fine. That's all we need. Friggin' Dr. Light actually made good armor for once.
Yeah. Pretty incredible. JP is struggling a little here at the end of Bandu Pembu Pandemonium stage. Zero is down, so we're gonna have to see how this boss fight looks. This is gonna be a little difficult. X can fend for himself if he needs to, like, say at the end of a boss fight if Zero dies, but having him do an entire boss fight on his own is a little difficult with our
I've seen it
equipment.
done, but yeah, definitely without any upgrades, he's gonna be have to be on his toes the whole fight.
Yeah.
You can actually bring the mech into Panda, but it's so much slower. That
Oh, it's such a hassle.
It's a funny little thing you can do casually, but you really don't need it. It's just not worth it in a speed run. But
Yeah.
in this situation, if we were already here, I'd have been like, yeah, I think it's time to bring them back in. Let the game do the heavy lifting, because you can chew through a lot of his HP. The only problem is, if I remember right, it lags pretty hard when you bring him back in here. Something like that.
I don't even remember.
It either lags or it just does like very low damage. So.
Whew, okay.
Nice.
He got 0 back just in time by filling the double attack gauge, and nice.
Yep.
Wow, he really turned that one around. GG's. That was a good fight.
My man gathered the Dragon Balls in Dragon Ball Fighter. It's like, I need my teammate back. Ugh.
Yeah, so I guess. Oh, sorry. Right here on Tempest side, you can do. You can see right there. He went into the block using Rooster's technique. Here, you can do this with Panda's technique. You have to swap off of the glaive though. You have to use the normal saber if you wanna. Yeah.
Oh, that's a weird
if you want to do that one.
Oh, I guess it's because you need the hitbox of the saber. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that makes sense.
Specifically, I believe the ones that you clip in using Rooster's technique, you can do with both, but that specific one where you clip in using Panda's technique, you have to swap to a normal saber.
Well, that's a really good example of like why the D-Glaive isn't perfect for everything, and it does have that weird hitbox you got to keep in mind.
But you got a little taste of it right there with him using Rooster's technique to skip the large rotating green switch room.
Yeah, I remember seeing this area specifically and being like, yeah, there's going to be no way to make this faster. Absolutely wrong. Vile just every game he shows up in, he just gets mollywopped. He stands no chance. He's just never going to learn.
Alright, JP moving into Sunflower stage, usually the final stage in a route. This is a sequence of like trials, where they each test you on like a different thing, or I guess specifically, most of them are actually based on how fast you can clear them. This specific one is based on how many enemies you can take out. So during this one right here, we're actually going to abandon mission after we defeat 75 of these little dudes. When the little counter in the bottom right goes yellow, we're gonna like fly off the screen or do whatever, stop interacting with them, and that is going to. So basically, after each trial, you're graded. If you did really poorly, it's gonna like make the next one easier. If you did okay, it's things go as planned. If you do really well, then the next trial becomes harder. We want to get
it's like we got low on
not a top grade, but like we want to get one or two off of like top marks basically. So every trial from here on out, we're gonna clear as fast as we can, and we should get like the harder trial on the next one every time. Like go up in the ranking. As you can see, you can like follow the board along there. And yeah, if you get like all of the top dots, then you get some other rare metal that we don't want for the run. If you get 5 or 6, I believe it is, then you're gonna get a sub-tank rare metal, which would come in handy for the final stages. It's by no means required, but it is really nice to pick up. And since on the first trial we're not graded by time, we can just like do whatever after we hit the quota and then bail out and then do all the remaining ones as fast as possible. That's basically the goal here.
One other funny thing is, I'm sure, I don't know if you're all aware of it, but I believe it's if you have Mega Man X Legacy Collection save data on your file, when you clear all these rooms in the penultimate room before the boss, command mission. you get into a fight with Cutman, who goes down in like 2 hits, but it's just time loss with him spawning in.
Yeah.
So it's like one of those, wait, what? Oh no, I forgot to take the card out.
They did add that in the X Legacy Collection as well. It's actually just, so there you don't need any save data, you just need to get all the top dots and it'll show up. But yeah, another reason why would you want to avoid that. In general, though, unfortunately, the X Legacy Collection version of this game is not good for running X8, because Spinfly has been entirely patched out.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
Pretty unfortunate. Spinfly exists on the original PC release of this game and the original PS2 release. None of the other releases have it, to my knowledge. So I believe all runners are both running on PS2.
It's unfortunate because each one of the Mega Man X games has peculiarities that are specific to only certain releases. Like a really out of left field example, because I run X3. The SNES version of X3, you can't skip into the final boss stages, but because of the analog functionality on the PlayStation and Saturn version, you can actually skip straight to Doppler if you want to by using a down and. I love all stages just because of that weird interaction. But you have to do some research depending on what you want to run, because some of the run may be significantly harder or flat out impossible, unfortunately. It's a bit of a downside with all the different releases. But it does give everyone kind of its own little feel. Yeah, these
JP is having a lot of trouble on the screen, which is understandable. This is one of the worst screens in the game. This one is so mean. This makes you do like an air dash through here and then grab onto that, jump up, and then do another air dash for that little sequence. There's spikes everywhere. And unfortunately, dying there also does like lower your rank for the little scoreboard in the back. So
the big thing is like
I don't
this
think he'll
game
be able to get the sub-tank anymore.
Yeah, that the scores here do give us some upgrades. There are a few like hearts or some like minor HP upgrades and some sub-tanks, but most of it you purchase through the shop. Unlike like some of the earlier games that they have more and more and more pickups in each stage. They like come to a head at like X3 where you have like ride armors, you have armor, you have chips, you have HP, you have sub-tanks. You have a phone call you need to mute. But yeah, the hitboxes in this game are kind of brutal. I can co-sign that. The spikes here are just very large.
Tempest unfortunately missing the little guy in that chamber, spinning to his death. we want to just spin and like be suspended in mid-air while having glaive hitbox out on him, and then usually he dies if you've placed the glaive on him and you get enough hits off of fast enough. But if you're a little bit off or you can't land the position just right, then you won't die, trial won't end, and you end up just spinning to your death.
Yeah. Some of these, like, if you're... I remember, I think if you die too soon after killing the enemy, you can actually fail too, which is a really annoying one. But for the most part, once you get through and kill the enemy... Yeah, these ceiling hangs are terrible. I had a run like that the other day where I hit the bottom of the platform and I'm just like, well, this is it. Life flashed before my eyes.
This game does force some rather difficult platforming onto you at some points. There's one sequence in the final stage that's notoriously difficult, and
it
good lord,
me
I haven't done it legitimately in many years now because you can very, very easily bypass it with Spinfly, but
yeah, I
that's
remember
like another big casual blockade.
Yeah, I was actually mentioning that before we started this up. Back in the day, I was like, Louise, I want to play X8. Let's do a blind race. And yes, Luis Miguel, Mr. I've got all the world records or like top 5 on just about anything I care about. And I rage quit in that room, and I was like, how do you get through here? And then he showed me, and I was so mad.
Yeah.
I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
It's super difficult if you don't Spinfly past it.
Tempest made it.
It's like it makes you grab onto some ledges, kind of like in that one Deadly Sunflower ledges with spikes on top. You like jump above air dash, grab onto the other side. It's something. We don't even get to see the room because we Spinfly straight past it. But
thankfully,
it's something you just need to see.
You guys, if you'd gotten to see it, you'd understand why we're whinging about it so hard. No mortal should. I don't even know how that room made it through dev. That should have seen like QA would have been like, whoa. Wait a minute.
Alright, Tempest is wrapping up here. As JP is sending the orbital elevator, the Jacob orbital elevator. Absolute banger. One of the best songs in the game, if not honestly probably the best song in the game. It's definitely the most memorable one. This is a fantastic song.
Yeah, if nothing else, the X series, like across the board, has really strong music.
Oh yeah.
There's like
That's
very
just-
few. Go ahead.
That's just Mega Man as a whole, really.
Yeah. There's like at worst you're saying mid to some of these songs,
Yeah.
and that's it.
This stage is largely an auto-scroller. There are some moments where the elevator will stop and there'll be enemies coming in, and it does actually matter how fast you clean them off of the elevator because it won't start moving till everything's cleared out. But for the most part, you can just stand in the middle of the elevator and do a low jump and then spin, and then the glaive will cover both sides and just wipe out everything that comes on the elevator as soon as it sets foot there. So
I know some of you in chat are thinking, why don't you just fly to the top? There's no trigger up there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We have to wait. I thought that too.
Yeah.
Fortunately wrong.
You can play this stage one-handed. You just jump and then glaive and jump and glaive and jump and glaive. You don't need to move. You just press B and A and B and A and it clears itself. Woo! Yeah, Tempest's clearing a very close sunflower fight in the meantime.
Yeah, but this is why D-Glaive is so nice, because you can just kind of sit under him like that and not have to worry, and you can actually use the platform as a protection.
Mm-hmm.
But it definitely changes how difficult it can be to play Zero from a fairly difficult character to a much more well-rounded mid-range. Unfortunately, we're just really not going to see too much Axel. We did get to see a little bit of him here and there, but you've noticed that pretty much everything is hard carried by Zero, at least DPS-wise.
Unfortunately, Axel is just not. He's unfortunately, as much as I like him, he's just on an objective basis the worst character in this game. In X7, he was used the entire run because X isn't unlocked for most of the run if you do new game. In this game, you have to use him to get the D-Glaive, and then you can use him in stages like Rooster, and that's basically the most you're gonna see of him, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's like
Quite
some
sad.
movement tech here and there, but that's about it, unfortunately. It could be an interesting challenge category for sure. This is definitely a much more difficult character, or weak, depending on how you want to look at it.
Alright, now Vile is here again, but this time as a real boss. There's a pretty funny strat on this guy. He has a very, very long desperation attack, but there's not actually a ceiling in this room. And with Spinfly, we can gain height infinitely, and it is actually possible to just Spinfly continually up in the air and just leave the screen and leave this attack behind entirely. It doesn't look like JP is intending on doing it. It tends to weave through the beams instead. But you can just like Spinfly straight upwards, and these beams won't hit you, and then there's like a specific visual cue that I look for as for when to drop down. And it's so funny. You drop in with like the perfect comedic timing when Vile stops his beam attack. It's like, huh? Anything ever happen? And you just continue on the fight. We'll see if Tempest does it later, I guess. Very nice finish right here.
Oh yeah.
There are several other things than what I previously mentioned at the start in order to clear shields. Specifically for Zero, there's two other techniques that can remove shields. There's Antonian's technique, which is Shuhazan, which smashes them. And there's also, I forget what it's called, but Panda's technique also does it. Panda's weapons actually do it for all characters. X's Green Spinner, Axel's Blast Launcher, and the one for Zero, they are all instant shield breakers, which is handy knowledge on the final phase of the final boss if you ever mess anything up. Because that one requires you to break shields a lot.
I mean, outside of like Zero turning boss weapons into techniques, unfortunately, you don't use weapons a ton.
Yeah.
I guess it's just like, well, Zero does good.
Yeah, we use like one weapon with X in the entire run, and it's going to be in the final stage. It does actually do a very good job there, because for some reason that particular boss, it's weak to it, but it doesn't get a million iframes off of it, so it's actually efficient to use. My goodness.
Oh yeah, Tempest is actually doing something here. We forgot. We kind of breached the topic earlier that we needed to use the saber for that skip. The one thing is, though, if you buy and equip a different weapon with like Zero specifically, you can take it on and off and switch back to the saber, which makes it a lot easier, because otherwise you'd have to go through that stage to get the skip with just the saber, which would be so annoying. But there's a lot of like little things that, as long as you're paying attention, you'll notice.
Yeah, JP's into the refights now. At this point, we've basically done all our shopping. X has 1 life up, or I guess 2 life ups. He has the thing called life up +1. You start on life up, and then you go life up +1, life up +2. Zero has the life up +2, which is the most you're really gonna get, and he should also have the shock absorber, so you don't get pushed around by all the attacks. It's especially useful in the refights. There's some things that still stop you, like if Yeti decides to freeze you with his snowflake projectiles, that can do it, or Sunflower and his funny orbs. But...
Tempest, people need him.
Oh yeah, nice! The classic, I need to go! My planet needs me! If you do a spinfly upwards on the very last segment of J-Cop, Zero goes to his home planet and flies off into space, and you get a nice view of the stars during the cutscene. It doesn't change anything time-wise. It's no faster or slower than just staying on the elevator.
Just fun.
But it is very funny.
Right,
I do it every run.
They're just trying to be like, by the way, you should use the Enigma in X5. No, I don't think I will.
Now on JP's side, we have a very interesting refight coming up. At least if you really want to optimize it. Because this guy is weak to Urthrock Trilobite's weapon. But, the funny strat on Tempest's side, where he just flies off the screen. It's so good. This guy's weak to Trilobite's weapon, but that's been like integrated into our saber. You'll see that after beating Trilobite, the saber turned orange instead of green, and it can now automatically deflect bullets. The problem with that is if we just hit him with normal saber slash, then he will get the long weakness animation, as you're gonna see when he gets out of the desperation attack here. And there's actually a way to mitigate this slightly, because there is one way that we can still get chip damage in without him getting a lot of iframes, and that's using the spin. Which is funny, because it's the opposite of most other bosses, especially Antonian. But so what you want to do is manage it such that you get 2 or 3 hits off of the spin, and then before he goes into big iframes from that, you want to do a normal slash. And that way, ideally, if you manage it right, after he comes out of the desperation attack, you only need one normal slash to finish, as opposed to 2.
Yeah, it's a pretty common strat in a lot of the older ones to go into non-weakness into weakness to min-max damage because of iframes or whatever. Yep. Zero, the funny part is Zero like frequently has this problem. In X4, 5, and 6, there's a lot of upgrades that break his like Saber's massive DPS because of one reason or another. So this is actually not even 4 into Zero. This happens to him all the time. It's like, ah, crap, I broke my sword again.
Yeah.
Let's switch. Here I come.
Every character has a slightly different dash distance as well. Zero's is by far the shortest. There's a certain rhythm you want to do to it. It is optimal to just you don't want to use dash jumps. You just want to dash along the floor. But there's a certain rhythm you want to do it with. For Zero, it's not mashing the button, but it is very very frequent and
You want to come
tightly
out and
timed
cancel
dashes.
certain parts of the frame, so it's the fastest. Yeah. Oh, I think and I mean every single X game has its own different timing depending on upgrades and such.
Yeah.
Like 4, 5, and 6. I think 4, 5, and 6 you do a lot of dash hopping because the random animation. But it's interesting here. I never really realized that all of them had different dashes. I just kind of like mashed the button like a madman. Hit button, go burr.
We're here on the Urfrock Trilobite fight on Tempest's side. There's something you can do. He's probably going to go back into his armor right here if Tempest doesn't finish him off quickly enough. And now that we have his weaknesses, we weren't able to use in the initial fight in the New Zero route. But now that we have his weaknesses, we can actually use Shuhazan on him, Antonian's weapon, and to just destroy the armor outright. In exchange for, he gets, again, way longer iframes once in the fight. On average, it tends to pay out, because he'll go back into the armor anyway. It's a bit of a gamble whether you want to do it or not. If you're not doing it, what you can also do is, again, use Panda's technique, because it's very fast to use and just breaks him out of it. So yeah, there's like the 3 different styles of fighting Trilobites. Like, when you do them in the initial stage in the new route, you don't have anything. You just gotta work with triple slashes. And then it's your choice whether you want to break the armor or use Panda's weapon, basically.
Simple but safe, or more complex and theoretically faster. There's a lot of fights that get that, where it's like, well, I mean, if I charge my Buster Shot, then hit him with a weakness, it's theoretically faster. But if he decides to go invincible, I lose time.
The Dark Mantis refight is also one of the few that actually changes from the original fight, because now we have the Deglaive, and now he's way easier because we have so much range, and when he hops around on the wall and like between the 2 walls, we can get hits on him basically the entire time. The fight becomes so much less complex. We have Shock Absorber, we have like double the health. It's kind of nice to like take revenge after the hard initial fight.
Oh yeah, I feel you. Having the reach of Deglaive and the buff damage is super nice. It makes these fights not trivial, but it definitely simplifies them and makes them a lot more reasonable. Trying to do these guys without any upgrades is that more power to you if you want to do that category, but I'm not gonna sit through it. Looks like a lot of the refights have been going fairly well overall. Nothing too close. Luckily, it seems like we keep getting a full HP drop at the end of this stage, which I'm used to, like, games where they're like, no, you want HP drops, you better bring it in with you.
Yeah, after every single refight here, you can fully refill one character's health specifically, but it doesn't really matter because the only character we're really using, hopefully, is Zero.
Which character will I refill? 0 or not 0? That is the question.
One thing you do want to avoid at absolutely all costs is Zero dying, because it is really, really difficult to get him back. You only need to do a lot of fighting as X to build up the double attack gauge in order to revive him. And it is really, really difficult. Like, the difference between 1 HP and 0 HP is, like, gigantic. If you end a fight at 1 HP, you can just grab the full health thing. If you end it at 0 HP, then you're stuck with X for quite a while, provided you don't die.
It's either that or, like, continue to reset and get your 0 back. Sometimes, with games like this where you're heavily loaded on one character, it's just faster to take the L unless you're, like, almost done with a fight.
Yep.
That's one of those weird things where, like, when you're first learning it, sometimes taking the tactical loss is worth. I gotta say, like, the boss refight capsules here kind of feel like a really awful placement. Looks like a struggle to actually do that from, honestly.
It's pretty hard to navigate. Spin flying actually helps a lot in just flying straight up. They're pretty weird. There's a funny thing you can do that JP unfortunately didn't do. You can do a spin fly up left above the one door to the corridor there, and then In this entire Sigma fight right here, there will be explosions all the time, whichever way Zero is facing, because one of the triggers doesn't get triggered for it to turn off. It's very funny. But yeah, Sigma, oh my goodness.
Hey, it's
He's
the guy.
actually a little bit of a pushover in this game. His weakness is the funny spin, and he also doesn't take too many iframes off of it, but also, his hitbox is large enough that we can just get really easy double hits on him with a deglyph, and it was a
got
copy!
Scammed. It wasn't even Sigma!
What the
Wait,
hell?
do we actually get a different final boss? No way!
Oh my goodness.
I will say, that was one of the more interesting aspects of X8, to break away from the, well, oops, all Sigma!
This is your final chance for any shopping you might want to do. This is the actual true final stage. Buying some retry chips here. Again, most things in this game are managed by the shop. Even like retry chips, which are basically the equivalent of extra lives, have to be bought through it. Cannot be picked up in stages.
Yep. The other point to notice is that this is similar to like X4 or earlier. If you've only played the SNES games, there's 4 E-Tanks. And the PlayStation version and beyond has 2 E-Tanks and 1 W-Tank for weapon energy. So you have to be a lot more shrewd with how much HP. You can't just get 4 free bars on everything, unfortunately. So that's why we're being a little bit more picky with where we're burning our tanks, rather than just burning it in between every time and grabbing the HP up at the boss capsules.
Yeah.
Hey! And the devs are just like, please help. No, stop.
Okay. I was a little scared there on GP's side, because he almost flew across this door, and that would have soft-locked him. You can soft-lock yourself in some instances with spin flying when you go across certain triggers. That is one of them, and he was very, very close to that.
Yeah, when I saw him going that close, I was like, I remember this being a thing you don't do, but I don't feel like commentate cursing this just yet.
Usually you go down earlier. But it's everything's alright.
Yep.
So this is the last Vile fight. He's been degraded to a mid-boss again, but he has a pretty cool ride armor. There's a way to 2-cycle this guy, and it's actually fairly easy. It's like you do 2 iframe cycles of slashes with a deglyph, and then you do an ice, and that is half his health, and then you do that twice, and that's a fairly easy 2-cycle. Still, 3-cycle, not bad. If you're playing on hard mode, the character you're currently playing as gets taken away for this segment. If that's Zero, very unfortunate.
Which will probably be the case, because Zero's the... Unless you're doing the X route, Zero's the, like, your main killer. If anybody's, like, interested in learning this, I'm sure there's some older runs with the X route, which is a very fun way to approach it. There's a lot of different ways to play the game. You don't have to just follow the exact route unless you're super into running it.
Yeah.
This is one of those games I'd say give a try, and then if you don't like it, you don't like it. But it's one of those a lot of people sleep on because they're like, oh, this is bad or that's bad. But all the X games, like I said before, have their own things. And this is the room we were kind of talking about.
Oh yeah.
That room, I don't know what Capcom dev built that room, but he was the angriest individual I've ever seen. That room is evil.
Alright. Now going into real Sigma. This is going to be the fight that I mentioned earlier where we're actually going to use a special weapon with X, and it's going to be very efficient. This guy has a lot of HP, as you can see. His health bar takes up the entirety of the bottom of the screen. There's going to be a mandatory sequence here where he grabs Zero and you have to switch characters. That's where the other character comes back in hard mode. And that's the opportunity we're going to use to swap to X as our main here and use Shining Ray on him, which is Optic Sunflower's weapon. And it does really good damage on this guy. Fairly spammable. Eventually, once he's down this low, he's going to start putting up shields in front of, before he does any attack. And that's where the 2 weapon butts that I mentioned at the very start of the run come in handy again, because with one of them you can use Shining Ray, while the other charges up a charge shot the entire time to break the shield, so that doesn't ever become a problem.
Yeah, it's one of those good quality of life things that was added in some of the later X games. I want to say 7 was the first that added that. but this one you can really take advantage of it.
Come on.
It may even be X5 or 6. It's been a while since I've touched the PlayStation era, giving you both a boss weapon button and a buster button. It's a really cool Extreme 2, yeah. Oh man, I love Mega Man Extreme. Those two games are a blast.
Alright, JP is on to the real final boss now. It's not Sigma, it's this guy called Lumine, who shares much the same ideals. And he also has the Chaos Emeralds. He can use all the boss desperation attacks. He'll use them in a fairly set sequence. He always opens with Trilobite like that. He's going to do Dark Mantises now. Once he's at lower health, he's going to use Roosters and create firewalls on both sides of the screen. And then he's probably going to go into Antonian. And that's where we will finish him. He also does adapt the weaknesses of whatever form he's currently copying. So while he's copying Antonian, we can finish him off fairly easily with Bin. Going right into Phase 2. It's a lot more difficult, generally speaking.
The final boss with multiple phases? What a shock! Couldn't be an X game.
On easy mode, the game just ends after you beat that form of Sigma on the final stage. You don't even get to face Lumine. If you're on normal, you get the true final boss, so to speak. JP doesn't have the sub-tank, so this is going to be a little dicey for him. He only has these tiny life bottles. This is all the health he gets to work with for the rest of this fight. Lumine Phase 2, if you want to play it optimally, you're going to tank a lot of damage. He's probably going to play this a lot more carefully. You can knock this boss past a lot of health thresholds in order to skip certain attacks. There's like one long attack you always have to see and wait out, where there's like these cornflake looking things from both sides of the screen. That's gonna come up now. Oh no, sorry, this is one of the attacks that you can skip if your damage output is high enough, but you need to tank a lot of damage in order for that to happen.
Some Hollow Knight looking attack.
Yeah.
This is some Metroidvania right here, before Metroidvanias. Oof.
Yeah, next one should be the one where they come in from the left and the right. This is the one that you cannot skip, no matter what you do. But ideally, it's basically the only attack you see.
These patterns are always the same, yeah?
Yep. It's always exactly the same.
That's what I thought, because if you randomly generate those, you can put that in a situation where it's, like, untenable, which is kind of lame. Hey, there we go. Super attack.
Very interesting move right here. Using the double attack before the final phase. Most people will opt to save their double attack for the final phase, because that phase is actually on a time limit, and it can be a little tight. Time coming up pretty soon, by the way. It's gonna be when Lumine loses the last bit of his HP in this phase. You have to guard break this phase 3 times, and then you can deal some damage. You have to get a little lucky for this in order for Zero to be able to slash him, because sometimes he just isn't low enough to the ground. And he's probably gonna close up once. Yep, thought so. 3 more times, and then we get some more opportunities for attacking. And that's time for JP. Nice.
GG.
GG. Very good. Yeah, it's technically faster to do the final phase without using a double attack, but most people, including myself, think it's scary enough with a time limit going on and with like potentially getting unlucky positions where he's way off the ground. I mean, that you just save the double attack for it and just like stomach the little time loss and have it a completely safe phase.
I mean, it's not even you're looking at like restarting the whole fight, correct?
Yeah.
If you die there. So I mean, like that's dead run versus time loss. It's probably worth going that route early on. Okay, that's some suspect spike hitboxery to me. Like we said, this room is very vindictive. I spent like good 15 minutes in this room casually, so trust me, I know how you feel. This room is the most.
I have some pretty specific strats for each of these rooms, just so that
lineups.
Nothing like that happens, because the spike hitboxes can be super deceptive here.
Yeah,
if you're new to running this game, which both of these runners are, then this is very, very scary.
I mean, I'm really considering in the past where this game was kind of like minuscule and like side margin to like memery. It's very nice to hear that
Yeah.
there's not only runners but multiple runners and new runners at the same time too.
I was gonna say. Absolutely kudos to these two for showcasing the run here. Even if they had, I think they only both picked it up more or less recently, but still doing a very, very fantastic job. Like, this is a game with a pretty rough entry point, with like the first couple stages being super rough for the run, and then just a lot of really dangerous things sprinkled throughout the stages. Rooster, final stage. It's very nice. Yeah, X7 and X8 especially don't get the love they deserve, I feel. They're just kind of being put aside. Like, you have the big SNES games, and then you have some love for the PlayStation games as well, but most people don't even really like think about these games at all, and I think that's unwarranted.
Yeah, back in the day, in like the mid Mega Man X, I guess, like community era, Doisum did the original relays, and then I started doing the second set of relays in just going into like the early 2000s. I wish this was one of those that I actually had a disc of. Hopefully I'll rectify that in the near future, maybe get a chance to come back to this. So I'm starting to learn a bunch of stuff. It's really nice because Tempest actually kind of cold called me on doing commentary, and it's really renewed my flame a little bit, honestly.
Alright, very nice. Tempest finishing up Sigma. Did spend quite a bit of his sub-tank, but hopefully should be fine. Entering Lumine now.
Very interesting to see that these, even though there's two sub-tanks, they look like they have enough heals for 2 shots versus the OG.
Yeah, the sub-tank doesn't actually drain all the way. It only drains what it needs to, basically, which is similar to how it functions in the Zero series games.
Yeah,
it's kind of nice that they adapted that, because like in the SNES games, for instance, that's like one problem. You heal 1 tick of health and your entire sub-tank is gone. It's very unfortunate.
You either have a full sub-tank and get a full heal, or you get nothing off of 95% of it, and you're just like, oh, neat, I forgot to fill it all the way. Cool.
Yeah, that is one of the problems I do have with the SNES game.
It goes to that every one of these games is good, but they're not perfect. And that kind of stuff is like, really, it hurts. It's a noob trap. Meanwhile, this game is very fair to newer runners, honestly, and newer players. Outside of Spike Hallway of Doom. Uh-oh. We got lasered. Oh, that's the unfortunate part, is we still got to deal with this phase.
Yeah, so okay. Zero's down for the count, unfortunately. Now entering... I guess it's more like the 2/3 mark. But yeah, bustering down Lumine from here is not gonna be easy. Special weapons might actually help a good deal here.
Early on, before the route split, there was a very short period where you would both get D-Glaive and Mega Man's upgrades to make things like this more consistent, so just in case something silly happened. It's a bit tight. We've got one more phase. Yeah, sometimes tanking the death and just getting both your characters back is the right play, as much as it feels wrong. It's not like the old... Yeah, sure. Unfortunately, we've got to deal with Lumina. Luckily, we don't have to deal with Sigma again, fortunately. That's been part of the story the whole time, actually, is Lumina's been leading these Reploids that replicate other Reploids. And that's why the final boss fight wasn't like the actual bosses. They were just replicas of the bosses. Same thing with that first Sigma. So this game kind of actually pulls a decent bait and switch after 6 or 7 games of just being lol Sigma. It's a very interesting story route to go with, because a lot of people just got used to it after so many years of Dr. Wily and Sigma. You're just like, accept that this is reality. Or I guess Dr. Vile, too, from Zero.
Yeah, this fight is definitely a bit of a gauntlet as well, sorting out. I remember I was coaching someone through the speedrun for this, and they also had major troubles just surviving all phases of Lumine in one go, even with the sub tank. It's a lot to take in,
Yeah.
sorting out.
I find that one of the best ways when you're teaching somebody, take it for what it's worth, but I usually tell them to focus on dodging the attacks rather than attacking. Because then they start learning the pattern and they're not too worried about doing trades over and over again. So that once they get to the point where they feel confident to both attack and dodge at the same time, they know what's coming next and they're not in a panic. But luckily, like, Mega Man X is literally just pattern recognition, pattern recognition, pattern recognition. Yep. Outside of the slight deviations of what random patterns you get from bosses.
Okay, so this is the big one. All of his life tank energy is gone. I'm gonna try and avoid these lasers as best as possible while still getting in damage. It's a little difficult. You can actually use the stasis from the spin fly here for decent effect for like just staying in the air.
Yeah.
Now he's doing this attack. I haven't seen this in so long.
Oh yeah, this is a thing. Oh, that's a brutal attack.
Definitely gonna want to swap in X to recover some health here. There's like a we didn't talk about this at all during the run.
Yeah, the fighting game system
here where half of the damage taken on a character is taken as like red health, and you can recover that by going onto the other character. If you swap back onto a character that currently has red health, it's lost. But yeah, Zero has recovered like half of the damage taken previously now, so that's good enough. Now doing this attack as well. Lumine is almost at the point where he's not going to take any damage anymore, so just needs to focus on dodging here. Next he's going to do the attack where he does the cornflakes from left to right, and then it's just a little more damage and then phase free.
At least these aren't like traditional spikes that just murder you instantly.
Yeah, or just projectile. Okay, just a little bit more. That final push to the last 16 HP in order for phase free to start. And then...
Yeah, because we still got our super attack as long as we have both characters. We should be fine. That's why we're doing a lot of jumping back and forth here. Ooh, oh, that's unfortunate.
No! Oh. That's rough.
Yeah, that's fair. Take one more go. I agree. A bit brutal. Some of these final bosses really push you to your limit. I've seen season runners get hit by some things they really shouldn't have. These fights are not as easy as they look, for sure.
Especially with Lumine Phase 2, it is actually also about like keeping up a good assault, because you will actually see way fewer attacks in the fight if you keep up a good assault. It's about like finding a good balance of like not, you know, taking every single attack, of course, but like, what can I...
If you can prevent them from attacking, it's definitely worth going gas on the, you know, all the way to the floor type thing.
What can I tank in order to like safely, consistently skip to the very next attack? It's just something you gotta know.
I appreciate that this game implemented red health from fighting games before that was like commonplace in anything else. Oof. And he is just...
And now the problem is Tempest doesn't have any more energy, any more life balls, no sub-tank energy.
Yeah, we're gonna have to take this slow and steady to win the race.
Yep.
That is one of the things. Yeah, it's one of those things early on in a learning category. You have to be like, you know, sometimes I'm not going to do this fast. Sometimes I'm just going to live. That's one of those things that you've got to be ready to accept when you first start running, especially action games like this where it can be feast or famine. Because I think Lumine is a particularly brutal final boss. I think the X series in general has some very rude final bosses. Some more than others. It is a shame that we didn't see any of the X upgrades, though. I was kind of hoping, because I was like, oh, what category are we doing for X4? And Tempest is just yes. Oh, okay, sure. X and 0? That's going to be fun to commentate. I'm excited. Okay. That would have been a really interesting, like, dual commentary. The dynamic between, like, 0 and X is a very interesting one. Unfortunately, they're very uneven due to the massive amount of DPS that 0 has in pretty much every game. But it is an interesting way to approach it, to the point where it's a pretty big split category. A lot of people either dedicate hard to X or 0. There's very few people that do both. At least in my previous experience, that may be different in modern Mega Man X community. Nice. I mean,
Very
you survived.
nice.
What about...
Almost there.
Yeah, the big problem is, like, the spin fly does pretty much, like, nullify some of these attacks, but it's a very awkward grip to activate it. So if you're not super familiar with it, it's not very easy to just throw out there.
Yeah, he's okay. He's set to do final phase right after he ends this attack. So just need to keep both characters alive and then double attack, and then that'll be it. As soon as he's guard broken 3 times.
As long as he
All right,
doesn't
come on, you got
spawn
this.
on him.
Finish it up.
I do appreciate that they ended the X series with what's literally a Wily capsule phase. Bro, please! I've been dealing with this for a decade now. Stop it.
Ah, that's too high a spawn. Ah, wow. Okay.
Got it.
A little closer.
Oh. So the super
Nice.
attacks can be a bit weird. You actually have to be, like, on the boss, and if you don't tap him with that dome, it doesn't trigger it, and that should finish things.
All right, nice. And that's right when control resumes. That's time.
Yep. Hey, man, any run that's sub-estimate is a good run.
Yep. GG's.
GG. Oh.
Whoa.
We just jumping out of here. Get ready for X4. We're like, we're doing this now.
GG's.
Huge.
Like, we're at intermission and ready to transition back to the setup.
Oh, I gotta.
Really cannot tell right now.
Sorry.
I'm
That
just
did
using my-
PP because